Hello, traders. It's 8:01 a.m. Chicago time on Tuesday, the 5th of May, 2020. This is episode number 1748. Derivatives trading is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. This morning, risk on continues with a pretty decent gap up from yesterday's close. Yesterday's close 28.25 in the S&Ps, currently trading 28.60. The market had some interesting moves overnight on news from the German courts regarding the unconstitutionality of the QE or some parts of the QE program. But overall, the market is taking a risk-on approach as more and more authorities ease up on the lockdown, and the market's anticipating that things are more likely now to get back to the norm, and so the economy may get fired up again. So that's what it is. Happy Cinco de Mayo for those who observe it. Overall, we are seeing the continued gain in crude trading 23 in the June contract, up $2.61 or 13%. In it had a pretty decent rally day yesterday, and it's rallying again from consolidation overnight. The Russell is the next big gainer, up 2% or 26 points, trading at 1281. The DAX is up 1.61%. The Euro stocks 50 are up 1.54%. The S&P 500 up 1.27%, and the Nasdaq's up 109, 110 points or 1.25%. Gold is off, trading at 1,700 even, down 13.3 or 0.77%. The bonds and the notes are also below settlement from yesterday in the futures. So clearly risk on. Had a pretty decent trend yesterday in the underlying and across all equity indices. Today we're looking at a calendar that we just got the U.S. Balance of trade negative. It's a deficit of 44.4 billion versus 44.2 billion expected. Balance of trade of Canada is a deficit of 1.41 billion Canadian dollars versus 1.5 billion expected, slightly better. Looking ahead, we have market composite PMI and market services for the US at 15 minutes after the open. And then we get ISM non-manufacturing at 10 a.m. Eastern. ISM non-manufacturing PMI at 10 a.m. Eastern, expecting 32. And then we have three Fed speakers: Fed's Evans at 10, Fed's Bostic at 2 p.m. Eastern, and Fed's Bullard at 2 p.m. Eastern. And then we get the API crude oil stock change at 4:30 p.m. today. That's what's planned for today. So let's take a look at what was expected yesterday. I actually want to take just 1 second here and ask a question. You'd be kind enough to type your answer either in the live chat in front of you on YouTube, or in the comments section on Periscope, or if you want to tweet at me, you can tweet at me at twitter.com/futurestrader71. I want to know, what is your most active product? What is your main trading product? That could be a futures product, ES, NQ, RTY, crude, whatever it is. That could be a stock, an ETF. It could be a CFD. It could be a Forex pair, options, whatever it is. Just let me know. And this is not an official survey. I'm not gathering any information. Just out of interest, I wanted to know. So yesterday, we opened up in a gap down after a gap on Friday. And the expectation is that we are likely to consolidate sideways and then drift up. And remember, I was looking for it to get tangled in the 28, 12, 13 area. This is the circle that's highlighted here, 28, 12, 13. And then once it breaks through, the expectation is it might have a pullback. And once it breaks through, I'm looking for continuation 28, 22, 23 right here. And then finally, I was looking for it to stall out in the 30 to 31 area before it rolls over and back down to about 28.15, 28.17, something like that. That's the main expectation yesterday, if you recall. Here's what actually happened. I'll show you it on my trigger chart because of the detail. And what we got is, instead of an open auction that held sideways, we had some initiative selling to start with. We immediately had an impulse down right here. And so we look for a continuation. The continuation pushed us into a very key area, 2789. 2789 is the microcomposite point of control of this entire region, 2789 even. And you look at the low of the session, and we've got 2788 and a half, 2788 and a half. And so it consolidates at that 2789 stock zone, which is the MC point of control, plus another confluence piece, and then it rips up through the mid, consolidates near the opening swing high, which was 2806.75, and it finally breaks through and pushes into 13. Now remember, 13, here's what I drew. 13 is this. 13 is this. Expect to push, pull a little bit, and then break higher, right? So back over here, the 13 pushes, pulls right to the opening swing high and pushes higher. This stock zone was not here. The stock zone was up here. And so now we're waiting to see when do we get to 28.22. As long as it holds the mid, it is likely to continue to drift higher and back in the range. It had a hard time staying inside of the prior range. You can see here it's just struggling and struggling and struggling. It finally has a lower high on the IB, which looks kind of weak, and then it finally flushes down, and it flushes down to 2,800, goes to 98 and a half before bouncing back up, pulls back to the mid of this impulse up, and then finally it starts to take off. So we get to 2780. 28, 22, 28, 22 for a small pullback, pushes back, and then gets to that 30, 32 area by pushing to 35.75. That was yesterday, a normal variation day, and a day that basically took back and showed very clear rejection. Now, what did I say for Friday's action yesterday that was to be observed? And if you recall from yesterday, I was saying that between Thursday's action and Friday's action, there was quite a bit of buying on the way down. Somebody was lifting the offer. Participants were lifting the offer on the way down, especially on Friday. Here on a big drop on Friday, we had this market basically allowing the prices to drop and then accumulating. As soon as that drop slowed down, somebody's coming in and lifting, 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 lifting. Yesterday, as the market pushed lower, we took a little blip, but through this entire consolidation, the delta was lifting, 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 lifting. Those guys are getting paid pretty well. The people who bought in this consolidation, the people who bought in this consolidation, both are getting paid pretty well, about 50 points, 40 to 50 points higher on that delta action. And that's important to note. This is why I highlight these things for you so that we can observe, okay, we see this, we don't know what's going to happen, but then we follow along and see how things play out. We have a new point of control, MC point of control, 2820 here in this consolidation. The market's above it. And that's the summary of yesterday's action. The price action was higher, delta was higher, and now the market is continuing to squeeze shorts, as I had talked about yesterday. Look out if you're short. The short squeeze is likely coming to 2,900. It's likely to push into 2873.50 today as we continue to explore higher. And then that big number from Friday, 2882.83. This is an important price. Look at how this price plays out. Let me draw a box around it so you understand how many times it's been tapped here. This 2883 area, very important. There's that, there's that, there's that. Okay, so this is our main target as we're pushing higher on our way to 2,900. Okay, so that's the summary. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Scenario one was on point yesterday, as you have seen. Looking at ctbookmap.pro, we've drifted up pretty much right after the reopen. We've continued to drift up. You could see that we pushed into this liquidity here, had a collision, broke through, pulled right back to the collision right there, continued higher. The next liquidity area is right here. We pushed into it. We had a tiny little collision and retested and finally broke through, pull back to the collision area, continue higher, consolidate. And then we had that German news at about 3:15 a.m. my time, 3:15 a.m. my time right here. Okay, we had that German news. The market recovered a little bit and it sold off before coming back in. The offer is steady right here. A nice little scalp opportunity, collision, pull back to the last high right there. Nice structure. Comes right back to the liquidity area, which means it's very likely to take it out. That's a local weak high. I call that a local weak high. And then it just continues higher. And now we're in this kind of colored mess here. But essentially what the market is setting up for is the way it's configured with the liquidity, it really is setting up for a likely continued push higher. Again, 2882 up here, 2882 right in here. 2882 is the main target for today. We're in the gap zone now. Okay, so that's where we stand this morning. My headset's dying. I have no idea why I haven't used it all morning, but it is. Anyway, so let's move on. Oh, let me see. Let's set this chart up. So let's move on real quick to our current expectations. So we're in this gap zone and we are looking at another gap. We keep gapping all over the place, expecting an open auction that pushes, that immediately pushes higher. I'm looking for it to revert back somewhat. I'm looking for a pushback to 2850-ish, consolidate here, sit sideways, and then I'm looking for it to continue to push higher. 2873 likely to get tangled quite a bit, and then ultimately we're likely to test 2882 well within range. It's about 30 points in range to hold sideways up here. There's quite a bit of overhead resistance in these areas. There's the gap mid, there's the gap high, gap zone high, and a lot of resistance in the 82 area. Secondary is responsive selling, which is the next natural process for the auction. Responsive selling that brings us back a little bit more, 2848-ish, potential touch of the prior high at 35, consolidate for much of the afternoon, and then just start to squeeze into the gap and hold steady in the gap. There's a chance here for scenario 3 in that it is likely to test and drive. It's scenario 3 would be an open test down, drive up immediately, squeeze into the 82, hold for a little bit, and then push. And that'll likely flush a lot of people out. 2892.50 on our way to 2900. on scenario three. I'm not seeing much on the sell side here unless news hits. Okay. Thanks for answering the question about which product you trade, the main product that you trade. I appreciate that. I'm going to go through and see what's what. Looks like the bulk of you are on ES or MES. That's very convenient for this broadcast, but I'll go through and see. I'm very interested in what people are trading out there. Thanks for answering and good luck today. Make sure you watch your risk. Take care.